This is the Behind the Line podcast, and this is Pacific Northwest Headline News in 3 minutes for Tuesday, March 29th, 2022. Last week, Washington Governor Jay Inslee signed several new bills into law, the firearms bills, and a ban on most new gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles by 2030. The measure, known as Clean Cars 2030, is described as the most aggressive state target in the U.S. for the phase-out of gasoline cars, setting a goal of outlining the sale of such vehicles 5 earlier than California's much-talked-about 2035 deadline. The measure was passed as part of a so-called Move Ahead Washington transportation package that was detailed last week, which is valued at nearly $17 billion. Clean Cars 2030 puts Washington on the road to powering its vehicles with cheap, clean, renewable electricity produced in-state and reduces the threat that oil and gasoline pose to our air, water, health, and economy, they said. In addition to Washington, a variety of other states have previously outlined their own plans to outlaw the sale of new gasoline and diesel vehicles. New York, California, the federal government, and Canada have all said they will do this beginning in 2035, and some reaching out a little further. The Biden administration has set a target of achieving 50% EV market share in the U.S. by 2030. Can the electric grid handle all these new electric vehicles? Did they forget that a lot of electricity comes from coal-fired power plants? How about the dirty, nasty mining that has to occur to make all those lithium batteries for the cars? Nobody's going to question all that. Jay Inslee's also been busy making pickleball the official sport of the state of Washington. That's like life-size ping pong, in case you don't know what that is. The state of Oregon will no longer require people to be residents of the state to use its law allowing terminally ill people to receive lethal medication after a lawsuit challenged the requirement as unconstitutional. Advocates said they would use the settlement to press the 8 other states and Washington, D.C. with using a physician's aid in dying laws to drop their residency requirements as well. The requirement was both discriminatory and profoundly unfair to dying patients at the most critical time of their life, said Kevin Diaz, an attorney with Compassion and Choices, the national advocacy group that sued over Oregon's requirement. If you're going to kill yourself, I don't know why you need to involve somebody else in it. There are plenty of ways to take care of that if that's what you want. California's first in the nation task force on reparations is at a crossroads, with members divided on which Black Americans should be eligible for compensation as atonement for slave system that officially ended with the Civil War but reverberates to this day. This is a report from KTLA. Some members want to limit financial and other compensation to descendants of enslaved people, while others say that all black people in the U.S., regardless of lineage, suffer from systematic racism in housing, education, and employment. The task force could vote on eligibility on Tuesday after putting it off last month. This bill was signed into law in 2020, or this legislation creating the 2-year reparations task force by Governor Gavin Newsom. Compensation could include free college, assistance in buying homes and launching businesses, and grants to churches and community organizations, advocates say. If you've spent any time on an Indian reservation, then you will know what government money does to these types of groups of people. It doesn't do any good at all. This has been Pacific Northwest Headline News in 3 minutes. For more, visit BehindTheLinePodcast.com. Thanks for listening.